Hi, I'm Lois Powell. And I'm Susan Schuler, and we're here to share tips, tricks, ideas, and resources to help you discover what's your story.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another podcast. Lois and I are back, and we have a slightly different podcast today. Usually we talk more methodology. Today we're going to discuss a case study. So Lois and I, how you doing, Lois?
I'm doing great.
Great. Lois and I have been working on, many of you know behind the scenes, sometimes you hear her voice or we talk about her. Our producer, our coworker, Nicole, is here today. Not only does she produce our podcast, in fact, we could not do it without her.
Well, and vice versa. I mean, I have great material.
Yeah, thanks. So we've decided to take Nicole's family and we sort of split it down the middle where Lois took her paternal side and I took her maternal side. And we just sort of dove in to see what records we could find, what stories we could discover, and just interesting tidbits that we think might be relevant to other people doing research. I was able to work with some new records that I never worked with before, and I can't wait to talk about it. How about you, Lois?
I am excited too, and also I'm excited that we even have other special guests.
We do.
Nicole's family has joined so that they can learn all about their ancestry. So it's a special day for us to have so many people with us.
We never have guests.
Yeah, it's spring break,
Yes.
so my kids can join. Mary, you want to say hi?
Hi. Worked out nicely that we could have Mary and Thomas with us today.
Yeah.
Right?
So Mary is my 15-year-old daughter, and Thomas is my 10-year-old son.
Excellent.
Yeah.
They're relevant also because we're going to discuss family names in a few minutes.
Yes, they all got family names,
Mhm.
including my oldest, who is in college classes right now. So
He couldn't come.
he couldn't come.
All right. So, Lois, you want to get started? We'll start with
Sure.
her paternal line.
Well, one of the things I remember you telling me, Nicole, way back when was you were from Minnesota.
Yep.
You left there when you were 8. And other than that, you don't know much of anything.
Not much, except I still say uff-da.
Except you still say uff-da.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't find that in the genealogy,
All
just
right.
so you know.
There's no uff-da gene. There's no uff-da family.
I'm sure there's
branch.
an uff-da gene, and you're not the only one who got it.
But at least on your father's side, from what I've seen, you're from at least Germany, Sweden, and Norway. And there
Okay.
may be others as I dig further, but that's where I've learned so far. So I started on your dad's side, and your 3 times great grandfather. So there was your dad, Rick,
Yep.
your grandpa, Roy,
Yep.
your great grandpa, Arlene,
Oh yeah.
your 2 times grandfather, Louis.
Yep.
So your 3 times grandfather or great grandfather, Friedrich. That's who I'm going to talk
Oh,
about.
Wow.
Okay.
So quite a ways back.
Okay.
Nice.
And Friedrich was born in Germany.
Okay.
So that's the first thing we knew.
All right.
And I know that he lived in Wisconsin when he was here when he came to the States.
Oh.
And he served as a private in the Civil War.
Okay.
He enlisted in August of 1862. So he was there pretty early on in the war.
Okay.
He was just 21 years old. But what's really cool about that is that he was in the Battle of Chancellorsville, which is called the Battle of the Rebellion. It's one of the biggest battles.
Wow.
The Union actually lost. It is where Stonewall Jackson was killed. It was a major event.
Wow.
He was wounded in May of 1863 at the battle.
Okay.
And I believe the wound must have been significant. I can't find a lot of detail, but he was listed as absent due to his wounds for over 6 months.
Cool.
He was eventually transferred to the INV Corps, which means the Invalid Corps. And he was sent to Washington, D.C., and he was put on light duty. But he stayed as part of the Union until his discharge in July of 1865.
Wow.
Wow.
So he
Fortitude.
He was there the entire war.
Okay.
What else he did, I haven't been able to find. But
Okay.
that's a major battle, a major campaign. It really went from April 30th to May 6th in 1863. So he was wounded sometime during that. And if you don't know, Chancellorsville is in Virginia. It's right near Spotsylvania County.
Okay.
So Lee took a daring decision to face a force twice his size, by the way.
Okay.
And so he split his army in 2, and that's how he ended up winning, which I think the Union learned a lot from afterwards.
Sure.
So anyways, he came home from the war, and in November of 1866, he married Louise.
Mm-hmm.
Whether her name is Ball or Pole is in question. I've seen
Okay.
it both ways. In the marriage registration, it says Pole. So I'm going to assume it is Pole.
Okay.
She was also from Germany, and she was from Mecklenburg. And I actually have a copy of their marriage certificate
Oh
here
my
for you.
goodness. I will share this with my sister. My sister's middle name is Louise.
There you go.
And I think I might know why now.
You might know why.
Oh my goodness.
And you can see her parents' names on there, and you see his parents' names on there.
Look at
So
that.
if Frederick is your fourth great grandfather, those
Okay.
people are your fifth great
No,
grandfather.
fourth. Frederick is the third great grandfather.
okay.
So that's your fourth great grandfather, John, and I think it was Elizabeth.
I see Elizabeth.
And
Yep.
John is right above it.
Yep.
All right. So that's
Does it
Frederick's
say that
parents.
they were occupation farmer?
They were farmers.
Farmer. Oh my goodness. And Germany also birthplace. How fascinating. This is their handwriting, or is this like the handwriting of like
I
an
would say
official?
this is probably not written by them because the handwriting is the same all the way down.
Okay.
So I'm assuming some official wrote that out.
Oh wow. Look, kids, this is called cursive.
Oh, that's right. They
It
don't
is.
teach
Yes,
that
it's
these days, do they?
beautiful. Okay.
All right.
But so Mary, those are your fifth great grandparents.
Fourth. Oh, her fifth.
Her
Her
fifth,
fifth. Your
yeah.
fifth. Great.
My
grandfather.
fourth, your fifth.
Yeah.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
wow.
nothing to sneeze at.
Thank you.
Like,
That's
that's
kind of
far
cool to look
back.
at the actual document. So this is kind of what people
Mhm.
do when they start their genealogy.
This
Start
is
to
what you
uncover
do.
documents and
You start doing a lot of
Okay.
research.
wow.
And I use several websites. I mean, I did use obviously the big one, Ancestry. I use Family Search. I use
Okay.
My Heritage. I use Find Your Past. I use some church records. So I went
Okay.
through a lot of different documents to try and get enough
Wow.
information.
Wow, cool. Thank
Okay.
you.
Well, anyways, by 1917, his son Louis.
You know what? And I will say at that point, I think they pronounced it Louis. I think I'm
Louis
remembering
Bernard?
this. I think it's Louis.
It could
I
well
I
be.
feel like my father, believe it or not, his dog's name was Louis, who
But
just
also
recently
that's
passed.
the
So
masculine form of Louise. Louis.
Oh,
It is.
okay. So now I
Yeah.
might have two clues to
Yeah.
my
You-
sister's
you
middle
might have
name.
two
Okay.
clues.
All right.
We should have invited her.
Oh, she's working. Next
Okay.
time.
Next time. So this is Frederick's son. So you're
Okay.
2 times great grandfather.
Mm.
And he moved to Hennepin, Minnesota,
Oh, okay.
where he was a cabinet maker for over 30
Mm.
years.
Oh.
And therefore, that's how you got to Minnesota from that side of the family, from Louis.
Okay. Because I think Hennepin, I do remember as may have even been on my birth certificate, I think. Hennepin. It just is a familiar
You have
name.
to go back and look.
I'd have to go way back. Yeah. Way back.
All right. So let's go back, though, to your third great grandfather, Friedrich, that we've just been talking about.
Okay.
For many months, I was tracing him back, and I was so excited. I said, oh, he's from Hamburg. He's from Saarland, Germany, which is kind of the county Saarland, Germany. However, as we were preparing for this, I recently found out, and I also knew he was born on March 22nd, 1841. But as I did more research, I found Friedrich Schaefer from Hamburg died on April 20th, 1841.
Oh.
So clearly the gentleman I had been tracing is not.
Oh,
three
and
times
I
great-grandfather.
remember from previous podcasts, both of you
Mhm.
shared that this happens.
So then I found out the same family had a second son named Friedrich, born on May
Okay.
5th, 1842.
Okay.
So I began to wonder, was your 30 times great grandfather celebrating on his brother's birthday, March 22nd, instead of his own birthday of May 5, or maybe his parents never even told him his birthday was March 22nd.
Oh my
I
goodness.
said, oh, that could be a good link. But then I did some more research and I went back, and we talk about this in every podcast, go back to the records.
right.
I went back to his military record and found out that Friedrich is from Württemberg, which is a different county, not Saarland.
Okay.
So now I found out that Friedrich is not your Friedrich at all,
At all.
because Hamburg was never in Saarland. But I did find another Friedrich Schaefer, also born on March 22, 1841, exact same date,
Oh my goodness.
from Württemberg in a town called Iffesheim.
Okay.
I'm probably not saying that correctly, by the way. But those parents are not the parents that are listed on this marriage license I gave you. So the bottom line is, we always ask the question in genealogy, when do you have enough information to prove it? I don't have the proof yet.
Oh my
All
goodness.
I can confirm is that you're from Württemberg, Germany. More than that, I don't know right now. So more to come sometime.
Fascinating.
Okay, so here's how I proved you're from Württemberg. As I mentioned, I went back to Friedrich Schaeffer's certificate of service military record, which I have here for you, which shows that he was from Württemberg. I later also
Okay.
found him in a couple of census records as listing Württemberg as his history. So I know it's Württemberg. That's a pretty much given fact.
Okay.
That's also where I found the other information about being wounded, and you can read all of that information in the service record.
Wow.
So the one thing I can prove for certain is you are from Württemberg, and here's a map, and this is Württemberg down in this corner.
Okay. So southern Germany looks like.
Southwest Germany,
Southwest
bordering
Germany.
France. And that's about all I can tell you right now.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll get you some more.
Well, it's fun just seeing these documents. This person, this relative, this ancestor feels so much more real when you see these documents.
Where do you see that?
And this is what he and the family look like.
And a photo of the family.
That's the family. So that's
Look
Frederick
at
and
that.
Louise and their kids.
Okay, so this must be the couple.
The
in
names
the front.
are on the bottom.
Oh my goodness,
So
look
you
at
can
that.
Look at them.
Oh, what do I see? I see a name. My darling daughter that's with us. I see a Mary here. And look, there she is. There's your ancestor. One of the names that you're named after on both sides of the family now. Because I knew more about the Marys on the maternal side, I would say. So it's really interesting for me to see a Mary on this side. And this is Louise. Oh my goodness, how fascinating. Well, this is hard, I'm sure, for the listeners. But I'm sitting here oogling my family photos. It's beautiful. And it really has brought, words and names and stories that you don't really hear much about generations back, family. Yep. So thank you. This is fascinating. And also to find out, how many Friedrichs were running around, Friedrich Schaeffers
on the same birthday.
With the same birthday of all things. Might have a Friedrich Schaeffer family reunion. Sorry. All right, yeah.
Well, let me talk about your father's maternal side. That was your father's paternal side.
Got
and your father's maternal side is also pretty interesting.
Okay.
So you're 3 times great-grandfather August Mix. So Shirley was your grandmother?
Yes.
On your father's side?
Yep.
And then there was Lila?
Yep.
And then there was William Mix, and he was your 2 times great-grandfather.
Okay.
And there was August Leopold Mix, your 3 times great-grandfather. And they come from Pomerania.
Okay.
Now, Pomerania is somewhere between Germany and Poland, depending on the time of what wars, of what was happening, right?
Okay.
And he immigrated in August of 1875 with his wife and 3 children, and they settled in South Dakota.
Ah.
His son, your 2 times great-grandfather, William George Mix, became a tinsmith in what was then Dakota Territory.
Okay.
And by 1893, he moved to Minnesota.
Okay.
And he married Bertha Heidemann.
Okay. Heidemann.
Interesting, Bertha and her family also immigrated from Pomerania on the same ship, the Dohan, in 1875. Makes me wonder if that's where they met and fell in love.
Oh, how romantic.
So the family lore that I have found, and again, this is family lore, it's stories that have been passed through. The internet doesn't always tell the truth, but these are some of the letters that I have seen out there, said that they had a continuous love story. Each year on their anniversary, Will miraculously found enough flowers and brush to bring Bertha a bouquet. So I really hope that's true. I thought that was a nice story.
Oh, that is a nice story.
And
oh my goodness.
Here is William and Bertha at their wedding.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's fascinating.
So that's your 2 times great-grandfather.
Bertha
or in
Mary.
your case, 3 times.
Okay. And her middle name is Mary.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Boy, well, I'm assuming Mary is probably a quite common name. Not as much anymore.
No.
But okay.
Everything's
All
going around.
Oh my goodness.
And he owned and operated the Nassau Hardware Store in Nassau, Minnesota for 50 years until his death.
Wow. And if I recall, I think is that the one where you sent me an address and I was able to Google Earth it?
Mm-hmm.
And I did early in your research when you sent me a little address, I was able to Google Earth the image and hone in and see that I think a library and a community center was built to the side of it. But it brought me, I could see the street view. How fascinating. So if people are thinking what more could there be other than just sheets of paper with, names and dates or something on it. It really, when you see the photos, when you see these documents, you can go to Google Earth and see the addresses. It's incredible.
And that's what genealogy is all about.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not the facts and figures.
It-
That's the boring part.
It's definitely a 3D experience for sure.
So I just want to give you one more map of
Okay.
Germany, and actually, and now Poland, because Pomerania is now part of Poland.
Okay.
And this little pink circle here, they are
Oh.
actually from, I don't know how to say this, but I will say Alt-Prilip. That's how it says in the genealogy records.
Okay.
In Pomerania, Germany,
All right.
what is now Stary or Stary, and I don't even know how to pronounce the
Prieslip?
second one. Prieslip, something like
Prieslip,
that,
maybe? Okay.
in Poland. But it does exist. It's a town, so you can Google Earth that too.
Oh,
And
maybe
I-
you have to take a
I
trip.
did go to
Mhm.
Wikipedia, and
Okay.
there's just a little bit of information
Oh,
about it. So you can do
fascinating.
some more research on your own on that.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
So that's just a
Okay.
little snippet on your father's side.
On father, that's the paternal side.
That's the paternal side.
Wow.
And now I'm going to turn this over to my good friend, Miss Susan, to talk about your maternal side.
Maternal
Are you
side.
ready to talk about your maternal side?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to do the opposite of Lois, and I'm going to work with present day and work backwards because
Okay.
I really want to start with your grandma.
Okay. Oh,
Because
I love
Mary
her.
Helen Grobel
Mary Helen Grobel.
is-
She is my
was
dear
born
heart.
in 1927 in Minnesota, in a
Okay.
suburb of Minneapolis, and she currently lives here in Florida.
She does. I just
And,
saw her this past Sunday.
I followed her father's family back for several generations, and you're so lucky that your grandma is still here because you could go to her with questions
Mhm.
or confirm family stories, and she would be an excellent candidate to search in the 1950 census, which is being
Ooh.
released in April of this year.
Yes, teaser.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
So the first
Big
document
deal.
that I found about Mary
Okay.
was the precursor of the phone book is called the City Directory. and then 1948 City Directory for the city of Minneapolis. Mary and her sister live in an apartment on First Avenue
Okay.
South. And they live like a 15-minute walk from their grandma Clara. So there are other
Oh.
Grobels in the neighborhood there.
Oh,
I printed
sure.
that out.
Okay.
But
Oh,
you
yeah.
can see it lists their occupation and their street. And I don't think most people had a telephone yet.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So Mary's father is
Sure.
Claire. And I know that is our Mary's middle name.
Yes.
Right?
Mary Claire.
And he was born in Crispo, Iowa in 1907. And while Lois was talking, I think the subtitle of this podcast should be All Roads Lead to Minnesota.
Okay.
So
Oh my.
Claire Leonard Grobel was born in Crespo, Iowa in 1907. And not long after that, his family moved to Minneapolis, the suburb known as Albert Lea or
Oh, yeah.
Lea City. How do you say it?
Albert Lee.
Albert Lea, and it's
Mhm.
spelled L-E-A.
Mm-hmm.
So I was contemplating that all night. So when Claire's nearly 3, they moved to Albert Lea.
Okay.
Okay. And Albert Lee's claim to fame is that it is also the hometown of Marion Ross, the star of Happy Days.
Oh my goodness.
And if you go to Albert Lea right now, you can go to the Marion Ross Performing Arts Center.
Oh, we might have to do that. I'd have to take a little trip to Minnesota.
Why not? So if you go on to the Ancestry account that we've set up for this project,
Mhm.
You can look for many of the hints for Claire were some photographs. I didn't print them out because they're group photos. A lot of them were from high school.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it says the junior class and it's like 6 guys around a table. Now, I don't know which one Claire is, but your
Okay.
grandma might.
She would.
And
Oh,
you're lucky
sure.
that you still have her as a resource.
Okay, I'll have to pull this up with her.
So Claire served in World War II. He was in the Navy, and he was kind of an older guy to be enlisting in the Navy, but he did.
Okay.
I couldn't find many muster records or details about his time in the Navy or during the war, but we could write to National Archive and see if we could find them. Or you could ask your grandma.
Okay.
She might know.
Okay.
He died very young. He died in 1947 after the
Oh.
war, and he is buried in the Veteran Cemetery in Minnesota.
Okay.
That is his tombstone.
Oh,
It's
okay.
called Fort Snelling. And
Yep.
this is the interment
Snelling.
card saying that he got a veteran's tombstone,
Oh, wow.
right? And he
Okay.
was only 42, which is really
Wow,
young,
that is really young.
right?
Oh my
He's
goodness.
younger than we all sitting in this room,
Okay.
except for Mary and Thomas.
Except for my children.
Right, and that's his draft card.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
so gives his birthday, and
Okay.
as his next of kin, he put his employer, which tells you how much he valued his job. You know,
Okay.
and he worked, it looks like almost his whole life, the whole time he lived in Minnesota, he worked at the Cudahy meat packing plant,
Oh my
which was a
goodness.
huge industry in that area of
That area.
Minnesota.
Okay.
Okay. So it's interesting to me, knowing the importance of family names in your family,
Mhm.
to go through this and see all the names that jumped out at me.
Yeah.
Okay. So Claire's parents were Leonard Grobel and Clara Kelson.
Okay.
Okay. Clara being a derivative of Claire.
Sure.
Okay. Leonard was born in 1877 in Iowa, and the following year, Clara Kelson was born in Lincoln, Iowa.
Okay.
Leonard was born in Vernon Springs, and they are about 2 hours apart. So I would love to know how they met.
Ooh.
Right now, I have no way to know.
I
They were married
Okay.
in 1900
Okay.
in Ridgeway, Iowa, which is much closer to Leonard's house than it is to Clara's.
Okay.
So how they met is not clear, but I'm
Hmm.
assuming it must have been through either the fan club, the friends, associates, and neighbors,
Okay.
or church, which is a
Okay.
huge part of their lives.
Sure.
Right. Leonard and Clara were both first-generation Americans. Their
Okay.
parents were all, except for one, were born in Norway.
Oh wow, Norway. Okay.
Okay. On the 1900, and they both identify as Norwegian
Okay.
on the U.S. Census. On the
Okay.
1900 census, which was taken in July, and then they're married in September. So Len is still listed as a single man. He's listed as a restaurant keeper.
Oh.
And I have a copy of that
A restaurant
census.
keeper.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because he must be running some kind of boarding house.
Oh.
Because it looks like he has, he's the manager, and then he has a lot of servants and a lot of boarders.
Okay.
And they all are from either Norway or I think there's one from Bohemia or Germany.
Okay.
Okay. But I thought that was interesting. And he can read and write.
Okay.
And yeah, you can see all of that right there. Okay.
And that's you got all this from the census, which is fascinating to me. That's been probably one of the most eye-opening things. I think a lot of the average person, I would consider myself in that when it comes to genealogy. You know, when it comes time to do the census, you just kind of do it. You don't really know why you're doing it. What it's just
kind
have
of
to
an annoying little
funding.
thing
What
you
is
have to
this?
do.
Big Brother's watching me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say for sure. And I mean,
Yeah.
I even helped do the youth program for the library for the census program. And especially today, that strange kind of pushback on the census. It is fascinating how this is how we've been organized. This is how you organize history. This is fascinating. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
So Clara
Okay.
lives to be 96 years old.
Oh.
Clara's parents are John Kelson and Carrie Johnson. That is very much the Americanized version of her name.
Okay.
She's also known as Kari, Kari, John's daughter, Johndotter.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay, so her father was probably John, and we'll find out that soon.
Okay.
Okay, her husband is definitely John, and he was born in 1845 in Norway.
Okay.
And Carrie's born in 1846 in Norway. And just to drop in some historical context, that's around the same time that Iowa becomes a state.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They got married in 1872. They were married in Norway, and they emigrated here together.
Okay.
All of their children are born in America. And I can't tell. Doing genealogy for a long time, and Lois, I think, will agree with me. Let me know if you don't. People come to America through New York or Boston or Baltimore, and they live in that area, and then they migrate west.
Okay.
Your people, I can't see where they stayed anywhere else, but they got off the boat and went to Iowa.
I think that's pretty much true on your.
Is it
father's
interesting?
side as well.
Yeah.
At least it seems that way. I did not really find a lot of history along the East Coast
Okay.
landing zone.
Oh.
All of John and Carrie's children are born in Iowa.
Okay.
He lives to be 84, and she lives to be 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And
fantastic
I have
news,
to point
I
out
guess.
the longevity of the women in your family.
Okay.
Everybody is living to be 100 or 96, 94 in that neighborhood.
Okay.
I think the youngest woman I saw was like 87.
Okay.
And what's extra remarkable to me is that these women are having 8, 9, 10 kids.
Oh, yeah.
So for them to live that long,
Mhm.
I think is extraordinary.
Wow.
You know?
All right.
Good stock.
Yeah. I
Hey,
think so.
hearty. All right.
So by the 1900 census, John and Carrie Kelson and their daughter Clara and all their other kids live in Minnesota.
Mm,
Right. I don't know if they followed family out there or if they all moved as a group,
okay.
but every census, John is listed as a farmer/blacksmith,
Ah.
and they were naturalized Americans.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm still looking to see if I can find their naturalization records or the name of the ship, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So let's go back to Len Grobel.
All right.
His parents are Peter Grobel.
All right.
Sometimes I see it as Peter S. Grobel, and sometimes I see it as Peter L. Grobel.
Okay.
All right. But he was born in Norway in 1849, and his wife's name is Mary Larson. And
Mary
she-
Larson.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she was born in 1853 in Illinois, and she, like her husband, died in Minnesota.
Okay.
She lived to be 82.
Okay.
And her parents, and her parents were born in Norway, but she was born in Illinois.
Okay.
Okay. Her parents are Lars Iverson, born in Norway, and Anne, born in 1827.
Anne is a family name as well.
Is it? Okay. Well, I
Mhm.
want to point out that her name is Mary Larson and her father is Lars Iverson. So do you see the patronymics at work there?
yes.
So like her last name is Larson because her father's name was Lars.
Wow.
Now, where Clara's last name, Clara's mother, Carrie,
Mhm.
was John's daughter.
Yeah. John's
because
daughter.
her
Yep.
father was John.
Oh.
Okay.
Makes it even more difficult to
It-
do genealogy.
does.
I was
by
just
the
going
way.
to say
really
that has
does.
to really complicate
Well, you
research.
have to, and also, I mean, it puts an extra layer of the detective work on it when it's not your family.
Right.
Well, you have familiarity with these names or
Mhm,
places
mhm.
that I don't have yet.
Yeah, it's kind
You
of
know?
blind, right?
It is.
Could you now to put that in perspective, Mary? I don't know if you could imagine being named like Farrell's daughter, like that would be your new last name.
Yeah.
Yep.
And your last
What
name
it
would be
is.
different than your brother's last name.
Yeah, and then Patrick and Thomas would have different last names.
Because they would be
but you'd
Farrell's
be Farrell's son, and you'd be Farrell's daughter.
That's right.
Right. Kind of weird, huh?
Kinda
I got a
weird.
grin out of her.
Yeah.
It'd be a little different.
So they all, so Lars Iverson and his wife Anne they moved to America together, married in Norway. He lived to be 86 and she lived to be 87. And they also moved from Norway to Iowa to Minnesota.
Wow, all roads
Okay.
really do lead to
do.
Minnesota.
So I didn't find any huge bombshells about your family. You're not related to anybody famous. You know, well, despite all your Scandinavian records, I did not find Scarlett Johansson or
Oh,
anybody.
she's not my cousin. Sorry, just banged
Things
the table.
that helped me a great deal were
Okay.
the Evangelical Lutheran Church records
Okay.
are really well kept.
Okay.
Really, really helpful in this project. The other thing that I had never had any experience with that I used a lot was the Iowa State Census
Okay.
and Iowa birth records, which I printed one out because not only do I want you to see it, but I really want to show Lois because
Okay.
they're a thing of beauty.
Wow.
Okay.
Ooh.
Good job, Iowa.
Those are.
Yes.
Somebody's got gorgeous
I
handwriting.
have to tell you, this
Exactly.
is the first time I've ever heard Iowa in any of my family history.
Well, there's a lot of
There's a
Iowa.
lot of
And,
Iowa. Why,
so
why
I
have I never heard
I have
this?
to point out that, yeah, like I said, there were no giant bombshells, but I
Okay.
think your story is quintessentially American,
Okay.
where these farmers come from Norway, they move to places that is sort of like Norway in
Sure.
America.
Sure.
They Americanize, they live within the same kind of nationality or ethnic culture that they lived in their home country,
Mm.
and then they slowly migrate west. You know,
Okay.
it's very much an American story. And maybe I'm going to be the only one that points out that all of the states that we talked about today, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota, Little House on the Prairie.
I must say, I remember growing up and feeling quite the kismet with Little House and Little Laura. Even before the series and the show, as a young girl who'd watch that after school, for example. I know my kids probably are like, what? But yes, I used to rush home to watch my Little House on the Prairie at 3:30. It very much was alive for me because I remember prairies and fields and the wheat and the corn and so I do have memories of that. Sure. So yeah, I mean, so maybe Are the Ingalls family related to me by any way?
No,
You never
not
know.
at
We'd have to make a stretch. Maybe,
Never say
maybe
never,
they were
hon,
neighbors
but-
at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe they went to
Yeah.
church together
Fan
or
club.
something. Fan club. They're in
Yes.
the fan club.
So
Well, I will say, having done a lot of this research and not having anybody in your family like your grandmother to talk to,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been fascinating because that conflict I found on your 3 times great grandfather's name, I honestly didn't find that until we started preparing for this podcast.
Wow.
Because when you take from searching for facts to turn it into a family story that you want to tell someone,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you find a lot of holes.
Okay.
And I was surprised at somebody who preaches now, mine your data, be sure you get all the information off of there, to go back and find out that I had some gaps in what I had mined in my data,
Mm-hmm.
and it had been there all the time. So that's my kind of tidbit to everybody is, I think, as Nicola said, the stories brought them alive, the
Mhm.
pictures bring them alive. But as you turn it into a story, you may actually find that you thought you knew something and you didn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's so much like being sleuth or a detective. I mean, I kind of feel like the two of you together. I just picture you with your pipes and your
Trench
yeah, your
I prefer the
Sherlock
glass of wine, but
Yeah,
it's
your
okay,
Sherlock
yeah.
hat on, and
Absolutely.
the two of you cracking away at the case. So I really appreciate it. I mean, this is a lot of work and energy, and I appreciate it because it's delightful to hear. I'm excited to share it with my family. And I just really appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work, but
It is a lot of work.
truly I appreciate a labor of love,
I
because I can tell y'all are so good at it and love to do it. So thank you.
You really are American. Like
Yeah.
your people are coming here in the 1840s.
Wow.
That's pre-Ellis Island.
Wow.
I would love
That's
to know where they came in. Like,
Yeah.
did they come in Baltimore? Did they come in at Savannah? Did they come in New York?
Hmm.
That to me is the bigger clue. But they are longstanding Americans.
Wow.
You know, I mean, they identify as Norwegian and Swedish and German.
But they became part of the melting
Yeah,
pot,
definitely.
became Americana for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, and it's
It was
fascinating.
fun.
Yeah, and I think I joked with you before that you have to be kind of careful. I do remember being younger, coming back to visit Minnesota, saying, oh, we're Scandinavian, or we're Norwegian, or we're Danish, or we're Swedish. Oh, no. There's always the
Yeah.
group. Nope, you're Danish. Nope, you're Norwegian. Nope, you're, so it is interesting. So predominantly Norwegian. Interesting, at least
On
on the
your
maternal
mother's
side,
side.
on the maternal
Yeah,
side, which is,
for sure.
pretty much the
Yeah.
family we visit.
I
up
have
there, so.
ideas for future research if you'd like to discuss those. I think the Minnesota Historical Society would
Okay.
probably be a great place.
Okay.
I'd love for your grandma to see those photos and see if she can identify her dad in them.
I think that'd be great.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
And keep in mind, we just gave you a sampling.
Yeah.
absolutely.
2
Okay.
families.
Yeah.
There is a whole lot of information that we've put on that project that we have
Sure,
out
on
there on
Ancestry.
Ancestry for you,
Okay.
which would be, I gave you, for example, your father's
Mm-hmm.
paternal, just one branch of it. There
Sure.
are a lot of branches out there to research, and there's a lot more history out there, and it's beyond Germany and
Okay.
Norway, and it's really fascinating.
So for someone, when you say I'm quintessentially American, I'm also quintessentially overwrought with many things to do in my life. And something like cracking into my genealogy and my ancestry, when I first started working on this project with both of you, I would listen, I would learn, but I would think to myself, there's no way, I wouldn't even know where to start. So I want to tell you both, the fact that you've made this so accessible, and what you do with your podcast and what you do here at the library, offering the service, I think anybody, if you could help me find this information, I think for somebody listening or somebody that comes into the library that thinks, I wouldn't even know where to begin, the fact that we have this resource here is just invaluable. So thank you. I hope more people take advantage of that.
I hope so too.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice thing to have.
Yeah, come on in. We love helping people.
We sure do.
They really do. I promise. I mean, they only beat me a couple times and
No.
called me in the middle of the
Yeah.
night, and
Well, it's exciting when you find something
it
good. You want
is.
to share it.
They will share you all the fun
Yes.
stuff right away, and they really are quite the duo. So again, come. Yeah, they are. I imagine the duo Charlie's Angels with their with their Sherlock
scanners.
cloaks and their scanners. And so yeah, thank you both so much.
You're my pleasure. That was a fun exercise.
Okay.
This hardened New Yorker never ever thought she would look at Iowa records, which once I saw written as Iowa.
Well, listen,
I thought that was
I
so
think what I
cute.
could do is probably teach both of you how to say uff-da. I mean,
Uff-da.
uff-da. No,
Uff-da.
yeah, not no uff-da. There you go. Uff-da.
Okay.
All right, Mary, this is in your genes. Let me hear you say uff-da. You don't know how to say it?
Uff-da.
It's one of our Christmas ornaments. Uff-da. Yeah, you stub your toe, it's uff-da. You know, you're cooking dinner and so you get splattered, it's uff-da. You know, you lift up some heavy books. I don't know. I'm sure my Minnesota relatives would be able to
Somebody's
fill
going
in.
to tell you what it means.
Yeah, I was going to say. And if we just did curse over and over again, I sincerely apologize for
Yes,
that.
me too. I don't
All
think
right.
we did though.
All right. Well, thank you
Yeah.
both.
Absolutely. Again, this has been fun for us. We will
Yeah.
keep going because now my curiosity is
Yes,
up.
absolutely.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, if you have a half an hour a day, you could do this.
Half an hour a day.
I
I think
think
that's
that's a
really
good goal.
reasonable. for-
Get out of bed, make the coffee, spend
Okay.
half an hour.
Yep. Have a couple good coaches in these ladies.
There you go.
Miss
Call
Sue,
us.
Miss
Come
Lois.
by. We're here to help.
And I hope for those of you out listening that you enjoyed this format of a case study. We'd love some feedback. If somebody said, hey, we like the way a case study goes better than just the methodology,
Yeah.
let us
Okay.
know.
Or if you have a question you'd like to become our case study, please
Ooh.
let us know. We'd be happy to help out.
There you go.
And speaking of helping out, we're hoping that we can get some volunteers to help us index the 1950 census, which gets released by the National Archive on April 1st.
Oh boy, that's going to be a big event.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to drum that up for sure.
Yeah, for sure, right? Well, maybe we'll do it. Maybe that'll be our next podcast.
I think so.
How to
For-
help
for sure.
with the 1950 census, or how to prepare your own records to research the 1950 census.
Okay.
I have to make sure I don't work that weekend.
Or yeah, I love how you don't consider this work at all.
This is
All right.
fun.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for being our guinea pig. Thanks for bringing your family to share.
Oh, they were delighted, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Maybe
And
in
thanks
20
to all
years.
our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Keep listening.
Census next time, we think. Yes.
Mhm,
All
I
right.
think.